Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrencies. They're after taking the world by storm. A little over 8 years ago, when Bitcoin first launched, its initial price on the market was 0.003 cent per Bitcoin. 8 years later, we had a peak last December of $19,500 per Bitcoin. Now, it's after creating millionaires, billionaires overnight. Sensational stuff. It's after grabbing newspaper headlines, people's attention all around the world. Just before Christmas, a friend of mine suggested we do a podcast on Bitcoin, and I was like, oh my god, the best suggestion ever, thank you so much. So we reached out to Instagram, social media. Does anybody know a local expert who would be well educated on teaching us Bitcoin? Bitcoin 101, we don't know anything about it. We were pointed in the direction of Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is a PhD student in blockchain technology in UCC, and he sits down with us today for the latest episode of the Franklin Nuts podcast. Welcome back, guys. It's Franklin Nuts podcast number 26.
26.
So I think a little before Christmas we had an idea that, like, obviously cryptocurrencies are a big trend in today's world, like, and everybody wants to know about them, but how much do people actually know about them really? Like, you know, you hear people on the street saying this, that and the other, like they've invested in this, that and the other, but how much do they actually know? Yeah. So we thought, why not try and track down an expert. So this week Kevin O'Leary has joined us. So Kevin, thanks a million for sitting down with us.
No bother. Cheers for having me, lads.
Thanks a million. And I suppose you're a PhD student in UCC?
Studying, studying blockchain, I suppose, which is the technology underlying Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and all these kind of things. As I say, like, I wouldn't give myself the title of expert. If you like, your buddy's threw me under the bus and said,
get him on.
Yeah, he talks too much crap about it. So you're probably better off just meeting me in the van on a Saturday night with a gin and tonic or something.
Chatting about it.
Chat about it in smoking room or something. But look, whatever I can do, I'll chat away.
Brilliant, love it. And I suppose, like, as I was kind of saying beforehand, I tried preparing for it, and I know you tried preparing somewhat, like, but and we watched an odd documentary.
It's very tough to try learn about it, like.
And I kind of was half a choice. I was like, do you know what? Actually, I think I'm just going to strip it all back and just be the average Joe and assume nothing and just ask
cryptocurrency 101, basically, like,
literally,
you know?
yeah.
I did something similar. I was going to prepare a few things, and then I was like, no, I won't, and just see what you know and see if I can answer a few questions.
Exactly.
So I suppose I know very little on it. So, like, where I'd like to ask and start is, like, what is cryptocurrency? Like, do you know, where did it come from? Where did it begin, if you know that? Or?
Yeah, so I suppose it started back in 2008. Timely start because of the financial crash at the time. Yeah. This people, group, whatever, nobody knows, called Satoshi Nakamoto, released a white paper. Okay. So that just detailed, like, the protocol itself.
Yeah.
And it starts out with Bitcoin is a truly peer-to-peer electronic version of cash. Independent of any financial institution. Yeah. So that was kind of the start of it. Released that. I think the currency itself, then the software was released about a year later, and basically kind of took off. It was slow at the start. Started building up a bit of market price. Then that whole Mt. Gox crash, which might have been in that.
I saw it. Yeah, that was just before I cut off.
So you understand this?
You heard Mt. Gox and you're like,
too much.
So that happened then. I think that was about 2014. So again, I actually hadn't heard of Bitcoin at this stage. I had heard about it first in 2015. So that happened. That crashed back down. Started slowly building back up, and hit about €1,000 this time last year. Right. And then back in November, Bitcoin. Specifically, not cryptocurrencies overall, Bitcoin hit just under $20,000 per coin.
Jesus,
crazy! Like,
the
whole market exploded last year. Like, so it's a timely time to be talking shit about it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Satoshi Nakamoto, is it?
Yeah.
So, like, that person still is, like, unknown and stuff, is it? Or it could be a group. It's just a name given to the founder of Bitcoin, basically, is it?
So, to be honest, it was kind of a bit of a play on, like, how Bitcoin is set up itself, because Bitcoin is it's not strictly anonymous transactions. It's actually what they call pseudonymous. Okay. So you have an identifier. So it's similar to you having, like, your Snapchat handle, right? Yeah. Okay. It doesn't say your actual name and your full bank details and stuff, but there is an identifier to point at it. So it's kind of ironic that the founder of it is known by Satoshi Nakamoto. We can all say, right, Satoshi invented it, but nobody can actually point out who he is in the street. Okay. So I don't know, was that done on purpose or what? But apparently his stock is worth, like, he basically started out by giving himself about 1 million coins. So he's sitting on a fortune if it's one person. Like, but, you know, a lot of people could say that.
Yeah. And is there like, I think I read, is there like a set amount of Bitcoin out there?
Yeah.
And then as well, if you want, is like, you mine it or something like that. If you want to get more of it, it's mined or...
Yeah, so... Alright, geez, you're getting technical. You said you didn't
very early on.
Like, right in the deep end. So yeah,
easing him in.
So there's a full cap on the supply of Bitcoin, which is 21 million coins.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think it's at about 17, 18, 19 million, that kind of range. But the amount that gets mined every day gets halved every 2 years or so. The last one was in 2016 when I just started the masters at the time, so that summer. And basically, I think it's going to take until 2142, they estimate, before just the 21 million is out there. So we won't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You know, people are kind of freaking out because like the mining is a big incentive as to like why you actually maintain the network.
Yeah.
So obviously, once you take away the reward, like, is there going to be an incentive? Are people going to maintain it or not? That's specific to Bitcoin itself. Some of the other cryptocurrencies, they vary whether they have limits or not. Then the mining part of it is basically how you maintain it. So if you think Bitcoin like is a blockchain network, blockchain is just a shared database, right? So as opposed to like Kev, you owning the database as Facebook would, for instance, everyone who is a participant of Facebook, for instance, if Facebook was built on a blockchain, everyone would own would own the database themselves on their own network. On their own machines. So basically, we're all keeping an eye on what's going on in the network. We're all maintaining it. So in Bitcoin's case, we're all keeping an eye on who has what bank balances essentially. So then the mining. Jesus,
Is there something to do with like processing power and computer power and all this involved as well?
Yeah, see, you do know the buzzwords to be asking me about, right?
I just heard a couple of keywords, like I was like, I'll throw them in. Like,
on this end of the table, and
no, that's about all I've got now. Like,
so yeah, there's different mining consensus algorithms, is what they're called.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin runs off what's called proof of work. So basically, all the computers spread across the world, they're all watching the transactions that come in at all times. You can actually look it up. You can see the live transactions going through. If you want to, Bitcoin Block Explorer, I suppose, will give it you.
Sweet. Explorer. Is it a website in itself, I presume?
Yeah, the first one there.
We're getting into the dark world.
Lovely,
now,
important announcement. We'll click OK anyway.
The whole thing's gone to So yeah, there, right. So latest blocks at the moment.
Yep.
So all the transactions go into blocks. And then every 10 minutes on the Bitcoin network, a new block is launched to the shared database, if you will.
Okay.
And that block just details what's happened, basically, all the transactions that have happened in that last 10 minutes. So if you go down to the latest transactions part, you can see as well see all those transactions that are constantly flowing through. So that's literally like, you know, I'm sending 10 Bitcoin to you, you're sending 10 Bitcoin to me, whatever.
Yeah.
If you go to like the...
Jeez, you cannot see it, like, look at them out this happening.
Yeah. And with current prices, like, that's literally 10, 20,000 being exchanged.
Like, just exchange, like, there.
12.9 Bitcoin there is like, what's the value of that, like 7,000 or something at the moment?
Well, it dropped again today, so it's about 5,000.
Oh, is it?
5,000 euro today. But
so like that 12.9 there is 60-something thousand, like, or something like that. Jeez,
it's crazy money.
Like.
Just throwing it around like that, like.
Not a bother.
And like
pocket change.
You were saying, pocket change. As you were saying there, like, you didn't kind of get into it yourself until around 2015.
Yeah.
But like, I actually never even heard of Bitcoin until the summer there, when we started to kind of student in. People were talking about it in the office and stuff. And
there was
that's when I first heard about it. And then even at that, I heard nothing about it for a few months. And then maybe November.
That's probably when it peaked, was it? To the highest it's been, or?
Yeah, November was the highest it's been. As I think, Bitcoin might have tipped over the $20,000 mark at that stage.
In November, like, so that was the right time to be in it.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get interested in it? Like, you know, 3 years ago, like, where did?
I was even late, to be honest, for like some of the people that I've been talking to.
Yeah.
Now you get like, I bumped into one fella and he was talking crap to me in a pub one night and telling me that he bought Bitcoin 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, 10 years ago it wasn't even released. Like,
I
highly doubt you did that now, but
you just nod anyway. Like, acknowledge it.
Buy me a pint.
I got into it basically in a lecture in final year BIS. One of our lecturers just had a few slides on it. I went straight back to the computer, looked up the price. He was saying, oh, it's nice and cheap at the moment, and like it's really volatile, so it goes up and down. It's like, fuck it, I'll get on this here and
throw a few euro
into it. Looked at, and I didn't have much money at the time, but I had a small bit, and it was 200 a coin at that stage, and I was like, not a hope am I spending 200 on a piece of software essentially. Sure enough, if I'd bought it,
Jesus,
you'd be laughing like yeah.
So,
and like there's Bitcoin, that would probably be the most well known of the cryptocurrency. Yeah. But there is others then as well. Like is it Ethereum is one of them? Is
Ethereum,
it?
Ethereum, yeah.
Oh,
what do you call it? Hey, don't you mean Ethereum? I know what word you're living in.
You pronounce your TH is like Ethereum. But like what other ones would you be interested in know yourself?
So Ethereum is the main one that I focus on. So Ethereum was actually built in 2015 by this Russian-Canadian fella, Vitalik Buterin. He was like a Bitcoin coder or something. He had formed Bitcoin magazine and stuff. And basically, the reason he formed it was there's a weakness in Bitcoin in that, like it's a great electronic version of cash, as they tried to say. But it doesn't support what Ethereum supports, called smart contracts. Okay. So you can't develop on top of the network. Yeah. So he saw the potential in blockchain, the underlying technology, but was like, Bitcoin doesn't truly expose that. So what Ethereum does is, as opposed to being, it does have its underlying cryptocurrency, Ether, which is traded, but the point of Ether is actually to fuel a smart contract system. So basically, a smart contract system is just like a decentralized application. So as I say, you build like a decentralized Facebook on something like Ethereum, where smart contracts will run exactly as coded forever. It's completely immutable is the buzzword that they use for it. So say you put something out and say every time it rains you have to pay Joe 100 Ether, and every time it's sunny you have to pay Kev 100 Ether.
Right.
So that's there, and like you'd hook it up to say like AccuWeather's API or something like that. Yeah. And once that happens, like once it rains or once it's sunny, like kind of something probably a bit more binary than that. But it's going to be executed no matter what. So there's like loads of different applications of that. Big ones are in like supply chain management, where basically because of this level of transparency that we can see all these transactions in the Bitcoin network, you could do the same on something like the Ethereum network. So as opposed to say the diamond industry, blood diamonds, where it's like massive need for transparency there to see where the diamonds are coming from. If you built this on an Ethereum blockchain system, you could see those transactions that are happening and say, right, like diamond 123 has been mined in Sierra Leone, it's moved into whatever the next step of the diamond supply chain is, you know, goes on, and then it's shipped from wherever, and you see like who's after interacting at what stage, and eventually it ends up in Keen's Jewelers in Cork City or whatever like that.
Jesus Christ.
So it just
it's fascinating, like
adds that level of transparency, you know.
Yeah.
It's very tough to follow, like
it is like a lot of that.
There's so many factors that lead to it, like, but it's crazy, like.
And see, like, there's a lot of studies being done into what's happening at the moment and why the markets are shooting up. In fact, like the price of Ether being so high is actually bad because the currency is used, as I said, to run those smart contract systems. Every time you every time you post on a Ethereum version of Facebook, it will cost you like a small amount of Ether. But as the price of Ether goes up, basically now putting up a status update, not that anyone does that anymore, but posting something on Facebook would now cost you like €1 as opposed to it being free. So it would actually be better if there was a big market crash in Ethereum, allow people to kind of develop a bit more, like do a bit of testing on it, and then for the price to go up as its value proposition goes up. You know, there's a lot of studies being said that these are like, one, Bitcoin is an actual currency, but it's not being like traded. Like you couldn't go down to Starbucks and buy a coffee with Bitcoin. It, you know, so it's not a currency in that sense. Ether isn't really being used to actually build these smart contract systems. So until that actually happens, they've effectively failed. You know, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And do you think will Bitcoin become a currency in that kind of a sense, like that you can make your, like you can buy some stuff online and stuff with it?
You can, but say the everyday use, like one of the big examples is you know, the Winklevoss twins from the
Facebook movie.
Yeah.
They
invested. Was
they were the first billionaires, right?
Yeah,
First Bitcoin billionaires.
They became the first Bitcoin billionaires around November again.
Yeah.
I think they put in 11 million of their Facebook bailout or something into it.
Yeah.
But like they've never sold a single coin, so they've never used it. And imagine if they did, everyone would be like, "Fuck, the Winklevoss twins are out. Everyone else is going to start piling out."
Yeah.
And the market is like, the market cap at the moment is, $300 billion, I think, which is big but relatively small overall. So if a big player like that pulled all of their stocks out, and it happened back in June, there was a flash crash in Ethereum, which basically, like, it's what they think happened was someone big like that took out their portfolio, and it basically dropped by a certain amount, but then triggered a load of stop losses that people had set that automatically sell off, you know, a certain amount of Bitcoin, and it crashed from, like, I think it was about €100 at the time, and it crashed down to 10 cent, and then went straight back up just because of this thing. So it's massively open.
Did you get involved or anything in the crash? With the knowledge that you built up?
I was in there already beforehand.
Okay.
So we a few of us inside in college, we were like, we better stop talking crap about this and actually act on it.
Do something like
And we put in a small, tiny amount into Ethereum.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we're sitting on a fortune in terms of percentage now, because it's gone up like 10,000% or something since we bought. I just wish I had put in a bit more money. I would have been able to chop out of the
Jesus.
But see, like, to go back to your point, I suppose, about it being a currency. If you were to go down to Starbucks at the moment, because of that thing of, like, transactions aren't valid until 10 minutes after they're processed.
Okay.
And the market's massively volatile. So you could be paying $250 worth of Bitcoin for your coffee in Starbucks, have to wait 10 minutes before it's verified and you actually get it. And by the time it's verified, it could be costing up to €1, like up to €3 down to €1.
Yeah.
So it's not really feasible. The big use case for it is like, what do they call it? Remittances. So sending money, say, from, say, a lot of third world countries would send like their eldest son or something like that, not to talk too general and stuff. But, you know, send them away to a developed economy and send money back home. And they're getting killed at the moment with Western Union. These kind of
paying your fees and stuff on their transactions.
So I just send you money on Bitcoin and it's gone. It's over to you in 10 minutes. Like, the fees are a lot less.
Yeah,
they're going up at the moment, but the idea would be that they're a lot less. That's the big use case of it, you know, where 10 minutes isn't that long to wait for, say, something like 60,000. You know, that could be one of those lads after making it big in London.
That's kind of what I wanted to ask next was, like, say I had 2 Bitcoin out, so that's whatever, €10,000. I wanted to give 5 to Joe, 5 to you, Kev. Like, and I want it out. How does that happen? Like, do I just sell it to you, sell it to him, and here I have 10 grand within that, or how does it work? Like, can you just...
Well, how do you cash out? Back into, like...
Is it all through websites and stuff?
Is it
set websites for it?
So Coinbase is one of the big ones, basically. It's just an app you can get on your phone, hook it up to your bank account.
And people will buy it directly from you, like...
And you can just buy in and out of that exchange right there, so it's just as easy as, like, topping up your mobile credit on the Vodafone app or something. The only thing is now, like, the SEC, I should have read up on that actually, the SEC in the States is supposed to be announcing today on, like, their stance of it. One of the big reasons for the drop in the last week and so is South Korea, after kind of cracking down on the regulation around cryptocurrencies. India came out last week and said that they don't recognise it as legal tender. So a lot of governments are starting to crack down on it and starting to crack down on capital gains taxes and stuff. So you can't, like, a lot of people probably owe a lot of taxes over the last 3 years and stuff from buying in and out of it, and the governments just are trying to play catch up now at the moment, essentially. So that's the logic behind that, I suppose.
It's fascinating. Like I would love to invest in it because obviously everyone is doing it, but I'd just be worried that if I put money into this, like, things like this can just crash overnight, couldn't it? You could wake up tomorrow and...
See, that's the thing, it's like, at least normal currencies have gold under, like, backing them, you know? Whereas this is just a piece of software. If everyone wakes up in the morning, like the Winklevoss twins, and say, right, this is actually stone useless, that won't happen. But, you know, it's just a conceptual idea. We just believe that it has value, you know, especially after, you know, the financial crisis and stuff. People had lost trust in the institutions. That's why people started being like, fuck it, we might as well just do this banking crack on our own. Never mind the big dogs. If we wake up in the morning and say, no, it's not worth it anymore, it could just go to zero.
Jeez.
There's nothing
There's no, there's
Yeah.
no validation to it. Like there's no
Jeez.
security really to it.
One of the big things that's going to happen in the next year, right, and it's already kind of starting to happen in China and stuff, is because, to go back to your point on mining and the computational power that's behind that, stats came out towards the end of the year that like the Bitcoin network consumed more electrical energy than like Ireland, Denmark, entire countries essentially. So as opposed to trying to regulate the currency, what they can do is they just be like, right, if you're a Bitcoin miner and you're using up that much electricity, we're going to hit you with massive taxes and tariffs or something like that, and just disincentivize the mining process. Without the mining process, the whole thing falls apart. So, I think you could start seeing different things happening there, basically.
Right. It's crazy, like the whole thing, like.
There's a lot of information coming at you.
Yeah. I suppose another part of it that I wanted to ask as well is like, you said it's not anonymous or whatever, but it's synonymous, and like there was the Silk Road website or Silk Road that thing. What was the name of it? Was it Ross Ulbricht or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember the fellow that went to jail.
Yeah.
Jeez,
He's a secret admirer here of Bitcoin, like.
But
playing off, he knows nothing.
Yeah, like that was the case where literally like you could buy like anything off it. There was all sorts on Silk Road or whatever. You could buy drugs or whatever, and it's completely like untraceable. Is that correct, or what was the crack behind that whole scene? Like,
yeah, like it is untraceable. Another website actually that you might go on to.
You love getting to use our new skills.
I love when he keeps asking it. You're actually probably the first guest that's been very proactive
that's
with
what we want. Like.
As you say, I have all these websites.
Show remote.
If you look up WannaCry, did you hear about that?
WannaCry?
Yeah, WANNA cry. WannaCry Bitcoin addresses, maybe there. Is there one that's like elliptic or something?
Will I type in Bitcoin address and see?
Yeah.
elliptic.co.WannaCry? Total ransomed.
Right, so the WannaCry virus that happened back in like May of last year, right?
Okay.
And they exposed this weakness that was in like Windows 95 systems or something all over Europe. I think it started in the UK. And this like virus came up in your computer and was like, right, pay us $300 in Bitcoin or all your files are going to be wiped.
Right.
So there was these 3 addresses, and this website here simply just like looked up those 3 addresses on that Bitcoin Explorer there. Yeah. So everyone knew the addresses that were linked to the hacker's account, but as you say, you can't link it back to who the hacker itself is.
Okay.
And you can see all the money that was being sent to them. So it started off obviously at 0, and I think they got to about $250,000 was sent to them.
Yeah.
So you can track exactly how much they have, but you can't pinpoint who it is. And then basically that big sell-off at the end was, I think they transferred the Bitcoin into Monero, another cryptocurrency, which is fully anonymous.
Right.
And then they were home and host
away
after that.
Yeah.
Away for slates. Nobody was able to find them. So
Jesus, that's insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that you can get away with doing that, like.
Like, how many you mentioned Monero there, first I've ever heard of. How many cryptocurrencies are there, or is there just loads?
I think there's 1,500 at the moment.
Are you serious?
1,500?
Yeah. So, like...
That's insane. Like, how do you know which one to invest in?
Like, your average... Like, you just hope, I suppose, that an expert is going to guide you and whatever, like...
Well, I know, you might have watched this now, another Netflix documentary.
Cryptocurrency.
Did you see the John McAfee at all? That one?
No.
Gringo. John McAfee, like, owner of McAfee antivirus.
Security,
yeah.
He started to tweet, like, in the last few months or so, he started tweeting mad about cryptocurrencies. But there was this fella who basically looked into him. Is he manipulating the stock market? And what he seems to be doing is he'll tweet about like the penny stocks of cryptocurrencies and be like, oh, this one's great. And like 10 minutes later,
that'll shoot up.
Everything shoots up.
And he'll invest in some other one or something, is it?
He would have been holding it, and he just waits for it to shoot up like double, and then sells back out, you know.
That's the dream, like, that's the dream.
Penny stocks.
That's what you need, like. You just need that influence, like, I suppose, people, like.
You need that
following. You know, Kev, in 5 years, kid.
But like, it's massively open for that kind of stuff, you know. It's crazy how just manipulative.
Yeah. Like, I suppose, like the Winklevoss or someone now, they'd have that kind of power as well. Like, if they were to be speaking out about a certain one or something like that, people would look to get involved, like, given their success, like, so far.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and the thing is, Bitcoin, the software behind it is actually open source. So a lot of them, what they've done is they've just taken the Bitcoin code essentially and just changed one or two things. Like Litecoin is another big one that you might have heard of.
Yeah, I actually did
think
hear
I've-
that one now, do you know?
Oh.
Oh, there I am. I'm stepping up now.
Jesus.
I've heard
Maybe
it.
number one point here.
I've heard of that one, alright, yeah.
And what's the book, eh?
Yeah, go
Okay,
on.
What have you heard? What have you heard?
It's so rude to interrupt the guest. If you want to continue there, Kev, sorry about that.
So, like, basically, my understanding of Litecoin is it's Bitcoin multiplied by 4. They essentially took Bitcoin's code, and instead of 21 million maximum coins, it's 84 million. Instead of 10 minutes per transaction, it's 2.5 minutes,
Jesus.
so it's 4 times better.
Jesus.
So it's the exact same thing, it's just like 4 times faster in certain ways. And pretty much anyone can set up their own cryptocurrency. There's other websites as well, I can't remember any offhand, but you can look it up and just be like, create my own cryptocurrency, and they ask you to like put in things like, do you want to market like a market cap or not? Basically the different variables that are involved in Bitcoin, they just go, what are your requirements there? You plug them in, you pay like 5 Bitcoin or something, and then up you go, and then you get on to John McAfee, give him a call.
Plug this in there. Do you ever look at kind of, I know now, the stock market of the cryptocurrency, and look at one in particular and say, this is kind of slightly spiking, I'll invest in that, or do you just not invest at all? Or
Yeah, like I look at different things. I actually I have to write papers, obviously, as part of the PhD. I can't just come onto these things and talk about get credits towards that. But I wrote a paper there before Christmas. It'll probably get shot down by every reviewer and say this is a load of crap. But what I looked at basically is Ethereum and Bitcoin over the last year, and like their prices are massively different. But because I had invested in them slightly, now I'm not sitting on any fortune or anything. I was keeping an eye on the news events and stuff that was happening, and basically you wake up in the morning and be like, something happened in Bitcoin, and be like, Bitcoin's after shooting up or whatever, and then you look at the Ethereum news and be like, oh, Ethereum's after shooting up, but nothing seemed to have happened to Ethereum, and vice versa. I basically like ran regression tests with one of my buddies, and it showed that like they're basically following each other. So what happens on one network should be network specific, but it's affecting basically everything. So especially Bitcoin, I suppose, as being the leader. If something happens to Bitcoin, everyone else seems to anyway follow its lead. So things like say what happened, the WannaCry virus was actually a good example. That ironically actually caused the price to go up, because companies were bricking it that they'd be hacked again, and they wouldn't have the Bitcoin to bail out and to save their files. So a lot of big institutions actually bought into Bitcoin at that stage, which shot the market price up. And similarly, like Ethereum and some of the smaller cryptocurrencies, they followed as well. So there is those correlations and stuff going on, which I think, the prediction at the end of that paper was that they should start acting more independently. As I say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, even though they're 1 and 2 in the market, they're completely different products. Bitcoin doesn't support development, and it is like electronic version of cash. Ethereum doesn't want to be a cryptocurrency, so to say. You know, it doesn't want you like trading it for Starbucks or whatever. It wants you to build a decentralized application on it. So they should have two completely different value propositions. They should be acting as separate entities. In my opinion, I suppose. I could be talking out my hole, but you know, it's anyone's guess really, I suppose, at the moment.
And can I ask, like, someone mentioned it to me down the line now, that like some people, they're not investing in Bitcoin itself, but they're investing in like Bitcoin companies and stuff, that they reckon it was a safer bet and stuff, just the technology stuff behind it. Now I'm totally shoving that off on whoever said that. So can I ask you about that? Is that like a safer option, or?
So one part of it, I suppose, the way, if you're talking about like investing around the currency as opposed to investing in it itself, one thing that happened in the last year was people were setting up their own mining rigs at home, hoping that, because if they mine the block, they basically get, I think the reward is at like 20 Bitcoin at the moment. So like, fuck it, we'll take our chances here and see can we actually earn a block, and by setting up a computer in the corner. So the price of companies who produce graphic processing units, you know, GPUs for computers, that shot up because people were buying them so they could set up their own mining rig. So that was one like tip that I could, in hindsight, you know, that I could have given you. The other part then is, I suppose, you might be starting to touch on ICOs. So that's where they're kind of like your blockchain companies. they set up their own tokens essentially, based on primarily Ethereum is built for ICOs, but can I think of a good one now? Again, I suppose if you go back to the Facebook example and we were to build that up, that every user on, say, an Ethereum-based Facebook would have like Facebook coin, I suppose. Sorry, and you would use that to do certain actions on your system. So, say it would cost you like one Facebook coin to post or something, or one Facebook coin maybe to, especially for say influencers and stuff, if they want to put out a bit of content, they'd have to pay or something like that, you know. Then when you're launching that, you can launch them in different ways. So your say Facebook coin could be linked directly to Ether, so one coin would be equal to one Ether, or you could have like an unlimited thing where it basically follows its own its own market prices based on supply and demand, or you could have it say pinned to different prices, you know, that it's 1/10 of an Ether, things like that. Not sure if that answers your question or not.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
Is there a website there that you could try to get up and just look at the stock market? Do you know of any?
Yeah, go on to CoinMarketCap.
CoinMarketCap.
You just want to invest tonight, Kev, do you?
I'm just very interested in it. Like, do you know, I just want to see, like, obviously Bitcoin is the main one, and I just want to see what other ones are kind of hot at the minute, like.
Yeah, you've gone to the second one there.
Yeah.
So it should probably be all red at the moment, is it? Yeah, you can see every market is. Oh no, it's coming back green there.
They're on the way down anyway.
The 24-hour change there is kind of coming back green.
Cash.
Ripple, yeah,
that's another one I've heard of.
Yeah, so Ripple's a big one. It's kind of ironic that it's number 3 because Bitcoin, as you say, was built to give the two fingers to the centralized financial institution. Ripple is those institutions' attempts at building a blockchain system.
All right.
Like to benefit the centralized system, if you will.
Okay.
So to build like decentralized applications that they can be used in a centralized system, if you will.
Yeah,
it's kind of messed up, but that's their answer to it.
And what's
It's
like
crazy to
Bitcoin
see
Cash here? What's?
Okay, yeah, all right. That was another part. Jeez, you really are hitting me at every corner. So what else can happen is, and it happened a few times, is a thing called a hard fork. Right. So Bitcoin Cash actually was only invented, like it only came about back in July or so. So basically there was a suggestion by like the Bitcoin community that because transaction times were slowing up because there was so many transactions coming onto the network, it was taking up to like half an hour as opposed to that 10-minute window. Yeah. So they're like, right, we have to do something about this. And there was 2 schools of thought. One, if I can remember what both of them are, one was basically just to increase the block size from like, I think it was 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes, so just simply do it by that.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other one? Christ, I can't remember what the other solution was, but basically there was 2 schools of thought, as you say. And they had a kind of a deadline. Now, the deadline wasn't necessarily set in time, it was set in blocks. So say we were on block 100, it was saying by block 150 we have to implement one of these solutions. Right. If all the miners, like everyone who's kind of keeping an eye, as you say, on the shared database, if we all agree on the one system, that's grand, we'll all like just fork off that way and continue as normal, we just have Bitcoin. But if there's a divide, like if there's a split in opinions, and one people want to like go for one solution, one side of want to go for the other, then a fork happens, and you basically have 2 independent cryptocurrencies running off from that point, from say block 150 in this example. They both go off and implement their own solution. That's what happened there basically, and Bitcoin forked. So a certain percentage of people started doing created Bitcoin Cash essentially. So Bitcoin Cash is actually, as far as you know, like someone might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but Bitcoin Cash is the old system essentially, continuing on. Bitcoin is they implemented. I think they did increase the block limit to resolve that issue. Yeah. So what actually happened there was if you held any Bitcoin before the fork, once the fork happened, you held the exact same amount of Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin. So if you had 100 Bitcoin tokens, after the fork, you now had 100 of Bitcoin and 100 of Bitcoin Cash. Oh, yeah. So literally printing free money.
Jeez. And they free pop there for you.
Not bad.
Look at that. Like if you look at it there, like Bitcoin is what $7,000 at the minute.
Yeah.
And then like look down, then like there's no one matching it, like really, is there? Well,
But I suppose what you have to look at there as well is the next column in, so the market cap. So say, what are we at? Yes, is it 13 billion there for Bitcoin and 6 billion for Ether?
We're
Under volume, sorry.
volume we've 13 million, or is it 13 billion?
The one on the left, sorry.
Oh yeah, market cap
120.
120 something.
Yeah, 120.
too many numbers there for you, is it?
It's something big in it, yeah. So it's 120 of whatever it is, and then Ethereum 70,
Yeah.
Ripple 27.
So that's a thing that they predict is going to happen in the next 12 months as well. One of their buzzwords is the flippening, which will be when Ethereum becomes number one and Bitcoin goes to number two.
Okay.
I'm kind of hoping that happens because
For your
Bit of-
portfolio.
I won't be in a t-shirt anymore. I'll just walk around the tucks the whole time.
Suits.
Like.
Any one of them take your interest in or to
Me?
invest in? Yeah.
Lad numbers there, right, Kev? So can I ask, like, if, like, poor old Kevo here now, right? He's got €200 to spare.
Yeah.
He's your average Joe walking down the street. Like, at this moment in time, is there anything you'd, where would you divide this €200 if you were to divide it, or is it a case of staying out of it for the time being? Has the ship sailed?
Yeah, like it could be a good time to buy in. Now I know nothing about market.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really just talking like my ass, but like they've all dropped, and I like when I was initially started doing this and put a small bit of money in, and I was watching it, and you could see the pattern that it seemed to just dip and then go back up higher than the previous high, you know.
Okay.
So I was like, fuck, I should really start doing this.
Yeah.
And it was up around 340, I think, back last summer, and it dipped to 300, and I was like, right, I'm putting in €100 in at 300, and it would go up further, and it kept going down, and hit 265, and I was like, it won't go down further than this, but put in another, I think, €100 or something like that, and it was at 265. It went all the way down to like 120 at one stage, and I was like, oh Christ, I'm after losing all my money. Now it went up again after that, but whether that will continue to happen, it's just anyone's guess. I know a fella who did buy. I think he started by buying one Bitcoin when it was at 1,500.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him over Christmas. His portfolio was up to 120 grand.
Oh my god.
Because he basically transferred that Bitcoin into
Jealous
penny
much?
stocks.
Okay.
And did that. I think he knows a bit more about markets, I think, and he was following something serious he was buying dips and stuff essentially.
Yeah.
But because you could like play off the percentages, and it was easy for something to go from 2 cents to 4 cents rather than waiting for that Bitcoin to go from 1,500 to 3 grand.
Yeah.
He moved it around to the penny stocks and then waited for those percentage moves to happen, and was sitting on a small fortune at Christmas.
Jesus, it's insane. Like I was actually reading the other day, 50 Cent. Do you know the rapper?
I heard about that.
He actually, someone bought his album with Bitcoin to him or something like that.
Yeah.
He has millions worth of Bitcoin.
What do you mean bought?
So like I don't know who it was. Like they paid the rights to his album or something to him, but they paid in Bitcoin, and he just accepted it years ago, forgot all about it.
Yeah.
And recently he looked and he had so many Bitcoin. Now he's sitting on, was it 8 million or something? They
Something
said
like that,
worth of Bitcoin. Like, and he doesn't fucking need it. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. They were literally getting it by accident. Like,
I'd say there's a lot of people out there that invested in it years ago that might have forgot. Like
what was the word very first day? I think in the documentary it was like 0.000764. Some.
One of the good stories in that is, I think it was 2010 or something, so about 8 years ago now, and like it was only about 2 months ago or so was the anniversary of what they call Bitcoin Pizza Day.
Yeah.
It was one of the first transactions that ever happened with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And 2 pizzas were bought in the States for 10,000 Bitcoin. So those pizzas are worth like 70 million now. But back then, it was that low. They were literally they were trading at like a percentage of a cent. And it supports that as well. I think it supports it down to 19 decimal places of a Bitcoin. So it does support micropayments as well. Yeah. It's just the fees are ridiculous at the moment. So much so that the North American Bitcoin Conference stopped accepting Bitcoin payments for their tickets last month because they just couldn't afford to put up with the fees and the transaction times and the congestion and stuff. So that's what I'm saying about, I don't think it's going to be a feasible currency going forward. I think people are still going to, like, blockchain, the technology that runs it, like, I think that has massive potential, and it will start taking off. You'll start seeing things going from you know, they're pilot at the moment, but they'll actually start going into production in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, I don't see us all kind of like trading that to each other.
Being that, yeah, the main
maybe those
currency.
big transactions, as you say, the remittances and stuff.
Yeah.
That might be a nice niche, but I don't see the rest of it kind of happening. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say that.
And so it was our two buddies really kind of introduced us to you, Kev, that Jack Hayes and Peter Stack. And Peter was telling me, the two lads.
Shout out.
Stacky would have killed me had I not given him a shot.
So like Stacky was actually telling me that you were over in China at conferences and stuff. Were you speaking at them, or were you?
Well, yeah. So we went to the World Blockchain Summit in Shanghai.
As part of your...
As part of the Masters that Stacky was in as well. So
Yeah.
they flew like 10 of us over. It was savage. We got to see that part of the world. But that was the World Blockchain Conference 2016 in Shanghai. Went to that. I still hadn't much of a clue what was going on at that. But it was good to see like what, you know, different companies, what they're doing with it and things like that. Then because like Saki and the lads, they finished up back in June or so, and myself and one of the lads stayed on to do a PhD, and we went back over to China back in Jazz Weekend actually.
Yeah,
We
okay.
literally flew over, missed the jazz, which was gone. It was actually devastating.
Missed the
And
session.
I was only there for like 4 days. We flew out on a Thursday, flew back on a Monday or something.
Missed the whole jazz,
Missed
so
the
like...
whole jazz. But they actually had a jazz festival on over in the city.
go ahead.
Yeah, I went over, it was mad. As it happened, we were just walking around, we were like, that sounds like a bit of jazz there now. But yeah, Chinese jazz, something to experience. But yeah, that was a kind of research conference with the companies that I'm doing the PhD for. Not that I should probably give a disclosure. I suppose these are all my own opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, this isn't like so that was to go over, and I was presenting at that, but that's only kind of an internal thing. I wasn't presenting at one of the big ones.
Yeah.
But it's some interesting stuff, as you say, going on. But then you get caught with the smallest thing. There was one presentation that went on. He was on about, it wasn't diamonds now, but it was a similar kind of supply chain and thing, use case that they were talking about. And he finished the presentation, got a big round of applause, and did sound good in fairness. Someone in the back row just put up their hand. They're like, yeah, I have a question there. They're like, fair enough.
Jeez.
I absolutely agree. I can see, like, say, if it was a diamond, for instance, I can see that, like, you know, it started out in Sierra Leone, it went through this process, and that's what it says in the database. But how can I trust that what it says on the screen is represented by the same, like, physical diamond, you know, on the line? Yeah. And your man was just kind of like trumped. He was like, not
Didn't
really
know.
sure, you know. So that, like, that's I suppose one of the difficulties there is, like, can we trust that the physical asset equals the digital asset that we're able to track on the blockchain?
Yeah.
That's when you get into things like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and all that. You know, you have to build around other technologies, but yeah, it's all interesting stuff at the moment.
Yeah,
I think you will start seeing.
It is. My mind is boggled from it. Like, it actually.
Where are you putting your €200, Kev?
Do you know? I've actually been looking at this one here since it's been
Like,
up on
you
screen.
don't know, you don't have a clue.
Not a
what's
clue.
going on.
Hey,
What are you looking at? Go on,
Not a clue.
I want to
no.
hear this. No.
Okay. So I'm looking at number 7 there, Stellar.
You just like the name.
I don't like the name.
Artois.
Look, it's Stellar Artois. I just think there, look, that 2.87% increase. You know?
What about the 12,551 underneath, like?
See,
Hey,
number,
do you have 91 quid to be pumping into that?
number 10 there, NEM, right?
Right.
What's that? That's like 35 cents at the moment or something, is it? Euro, so it's about 50 cent dollars.
51 cents, yeah.
So that's another, like, I put a small, tiny bit of money into that at 6 cents. And back in November that was at like 150.
So that's
And
As in
like
$1.50?
Yeah, $1.50, and I was like, happy days. But so you have to look at a few things here.
Yep.
See, the market cap on that one is like 8 billion or something.
8 billion here, yeah.
You know, so for that to reach, like, say $10, then each coin is going to be, like, because of the market cap, you know, it's going to just have, the overall market for NEM is going to have to be like $100 trillion or something, which is probably unrealistic. Don't take my maths for granted there. No, actually number 11 there, IOTA, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So that's the only cryptocurrency, I think, out of the 1500 that isn't actually built on blockchain technology. So that could have other applications. Basically, how that works is, as opposed to that shared ledger where we're all like putting out blocks.
Yeah.
For a transaction to be confirmed on IOTA, you have to verify 2 pending transactions.
Okay.
So its scalability goes up like twofold with every extra user that comes on board, if you will. It's like technology called Tangle. I don't know too much about it. That's my 2 cents on it. But it's a nice low price there. Like you'll get 100 coins there for your 200 euro, you know. So.
There you go. Okay.
What one takes
and
your
it sounds
fancy,
good as well, you know.
IOTA,
like,
like, I've invested in IOTA. Like,
it's the cryptocurrency of IoT, actually, Internet of Things. So
right,
that's kind of what they're playing at. So.
Yeah.
But they all say different things, you know.
Yeah.
It would be cool just to throw like, you know, €2 into a random one there, or €3, and just see how it grows. Like, see what happens.
Ways, right.
Well, that's why we did it. Like, we didn't want
Bitcoin,
I didn't
Bitcoin,
put
is
much
it?
money in it at all, but it was just because it forces you to keep up to date with it and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
when you've a horse in the race, you're going to be keeping
Exactly.
an eye on it. Like.
Yeah. Jesus, it's gas. There's gas.
The gas. Just
That's a sign there. It's a
20.
Fucking hell. That's crazy.
It's nuts.
I don't know what to say about the whole thing, really. Like. And can I just add, like, so it peaked at 20,000 or whatever there in November, and like, as most people say, it's taking a dip, or like, you know, when we say, oh, we're doing a podcast on Bitcoin soon, they're like, Jesus, sure, it's taking a dip, it's not worth anything anymore.
Yeah,
and all this,
slow
like,
to the race and all this we are. And
like, what leads to it taking such a dip, like, do you know?
Well, like in the last 2 weeks or so, what happened was South Korea and India, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, as you said. Yeah.
Just blew up on it.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're going to start regulating the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, South Korea, I didn't think was actually that bad news. Basically, all they said was, when you're buying it, we're going to ask you for your personal information.
Okay.
So you can't buy it like completely anonymously anymore.
Oh.
They're going to put some like KYC regulation, know your customer regulation around it. Like, I had to do that anyway with Coinbase. It's a disaster. When I was setting up my account, I was sitting in a lab, standing in front of a webcam with me and my driver's license, like trying to get that and stuff. That takes a few days and stuff. But it's just so, like, as I say, for those capital gains taxes that they're able to do that. Then India said that it doesn't recognise it as legal tender last week. Again, that's not that big
bad news,
statement.
like,
You know, nobody really recognises it as legal tender, and it still can be used. Probably, I suppose, as you say, to more kind of black market activities, which I'm not promoting. But
And is it regulated elsewhere, or is it like completely unregulated? Like in America now, for example, is it like just no regulations, or is it regulated in some way?
They're trying to play catch up basically with it. So, like what the Winklevoss twins are doing is they're pushing for an ETF, which is exchange traded fund, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, it's just kind of these regulations that will add validity to Bitcoin and allow like the big boys on Wall Street to start trading it and stuff like that. So if that happens, I suppose, and if you get institutional investors as opposed to like stupid punters like myself looking into it, then that's when the big money starts coming into the game. Your man Jamie Dimon, he's CEO of JP Morgan. He said before Christmas, he was like, anyone who invests in Bitcoin is stupid, and if I catch one of my employees investing in it, they'll be fired on the spot.
Jeez.
So he had some harsh words about it.
And your man was speaking on it, Belfort, you know, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, Jordan Belfort,
That stuff wrecks my head, to be honest, because like it was coming up. I've Google Alert set up for the keywords Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that, so I read it every morning and see what's going on. Every second day, it's like the real Wolf of Wall Street says it's all clickbait.
He was plastered everywhere, like LinkedIn everywhere and Facebook.
There's this one fella I only read like yesterday, I think, and it was just like, this fella's the prick's prick here. He,
the prick's prick.
He's like a 19-year-old Canadian. No, he's from Idaho in the States, and he bet his parents. He was begging his parents to leave him drop out of high school. And he bet his parents that if he was a millionaire by 18, he wouldn't have to go to college. And he invested in Bitcoin. His brother told him about it, and he was a millionaire by the time he was 18. And there was a news article released there yesterday, the day before, as I say, and he was saying, if you're not a millionaire in the next 10 years, it's your own fault. And I was like, you're just a prick. You know.
Did you tell me that? Was that you told me that story yesterday as well? I heard that.
No.
Do you know who it was? It was Salty Pete.
Yeah.
Big shout out
I
Salty.
have no fucking knowledge of Bitcoin.
No, someone told me that yesterday as well, and I was like, but jeez, that's fucking nuts. Like.
And okay, so average Joe like myself, I want to invest there.
You're really pushing for Just
Do
go
you
out.
You want to make your
like,
millions.
Yeah, I want the IOTA one there. Like, do I just go online? Is there
Coinbase,
multiple?
set up your account.
Well, alright, the smaller ones, IOTA is a bit more difficult to set up. So Coinbase, all Coinbase supports at the moment is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
So what you'd have to do is go onto something like Coinbase, buy say Bitcoin, and then go on to another, well, say Poloniex is another exchange, and basically you trade Bitcoin, like you're not trading say USD Bitcoin or USD IOTA, you're trading Bitcoin IOTA. They have those markets open.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of have 2 hops basically to get into your IOTA. And then 2 hops to get back out as well if you want to actually cash it out. But apparently again, if regulation comes in, they're supposed to be cracking down big time on that they'll actually tax you on your capital gains from say USD into Bitcoin is one, and then from Bitcoin into that transaction from Bitcoin into IOTA, they'll tax you again on that, and then twice on the way back out. So if you're properly paying your taxes, which you definitely should, then you're going to get it.
I'm all above board.
Jeez.
Jeez, there's a lot of actually goes into investing, like, isn't there? It would actually turn me off.
Yeah, well, like,
I'd be too lazy to do it, like.
Do you know, we don't know enough, I suppose, like, and it's things like that Jordan Belfort video that I suppose people like you and me would just look at and be like,
oh, he said it.
he said it, you know, he's made whatever money in the past, and you just take that, and that's absolutely
I
crazy,
know people
like,
believe this stuff, like, and that's why they believe John McAfee's tweets and all this kind of stuff, and they're just playing on that kind of that, you know, a lack of investor knowledge at the moment. So it's ripe for that at the moment.
Jesus Christ.
It is mad, right?
Yeah,
it's a crazy thing to be looking into.
Crazy world.
Have you any more?
No, I'm pretty. It's just up to here now with me. It's going over the head, and I think it's insane.
Crazy world, yeah. Like I actually, John, I want to go in, research more about it, like, and find out more about it.
Yeah.
And
I probably should too.
Hey, you've come with some knowledge tonight. Jesus, you've really.
I think we should
really on it. Like,
keep an eye on the market. I'd love to do it again sometime. Like, let's say if there was a big crash or a big spike or something, and just
even that website. Like, I love looking at it now. Like, just
you just love the colours.
Yeah.
Just you like the graphs in the corner.
I think it's just cool, like, isn't it? It's. My mind's boggled then, yeah, at all.
Brilliant.
Kev, what you should do now is go onto one of those websites, set up your own coin.
Set up my own cryptocurrency.
Kev
It could be as easy as that. You just set up and tell you
fill out your little, what do you want? 10 times as fast as
Bitcoin. Did you hear
Bitcoin.
about Dogecoin at all?
No.
So that was literally set up as a piss take, given 2 fingers. This a few years ago. It should definitely be. It's up there now in the top 10 or something. Dogecoin. But, like, you know, do you ever see the picture of a Doge? You know, it's just like a dog.
Yeah.
And they set up.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
And they set that up, and like it's.
Jeez, that's nice and cheap as well.
It
like
investment
per coin.
What's the market cap? It's only.
Which column is actually market cap? So it's here the
black
column. Yeah.
44.
436,000
is it? Or million?
Million, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And then you're at 0.00386 per. Is that per coin then? Like?
Yeah.
There you go, no, Kev. Like, if you put in €200 into
why you keep coming at me like you?
I know you want to invest €200. If you put that into Dogecoin, no, like, you'll have thousands.
I would, yeah.
Dogecoin, you know?
You wouldn't have to come back on the Franklin Nuts
No.
podcast.
I'd leave, yeah.
So yeah, jeez, love to do it again sometime if it's
the knowledge you've brought has been brilliant. Like, you know.
I suppose since 2015, someone's going to see this and be like, this guy is talking about
but to be fair to you, you started learning about it in 2015 to 2018. You've built up some knowledge on it. To be fair to you, like, you've really enlightened us on it, and I don't know why you're smirking at me.
You're getting awfully paranoid.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. Kev, thanks a million for sitting down with us.
Absolute gent.
Absolute pleasure. Do you want to give a shout out to anyone or any social media handles or anything?
Peter Stack is the only fella that I'm supposed to be giving a shout out to. I think.
Perfect.
Jack Hayes, I suppose.
Jack Hayes. Cheers, Jack.
2 boys.
No, Jack likes to dab. No. Might edit that out.
It's staying in now.
Yeah. So guys, thanks
if you've
for
liked
watching.
give it a like, share, subscribe, the whole lot, and we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Cheers, lad.
Hey everybody, so we really hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Franklin Nuts podcast. As we're still a young podcast trying to grow, we just want to ask you guys one favour. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the bell if you're feeling cheeky. You get a notification once a week when the podcast comes out. If you're watching on Facebook, drop us a like. If you're feeling cheeky, hit us a share. That'd be brilliant. And also, you can check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud also. Thanks guys.